Brian, could we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gerard.
Here.
Councilmember Monson.
Here.
Councilmember Bystrom.
Present.
Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
And Mayor Bain.
Here. I'll ask all those that are able to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Before you, we have a proposed agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. I think a number of you are in the room this evening for the discussion of the refuse and recycling RFP. We have a bit of a unique circumstance tonight, and so we're going to start with Bridget's going to give us an overview of the nature of the information that is going to be disclosed tonight, and I'll turn it over to Bridget.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. On the regular agenda for this evening's meeting is an item related to the refuse and recycling request for proposals, or RFP. The City of Forest Lake City Code provides for what is often referred to as organized collection of refuse and recyclables from dwellings of 4 units or less. This encompasses all of the single-family residences within the city, as well as duplexes and other residential structures, again, with 4 or fewer units. The city has operated under this organized collection system in its current state since 2009 with the passage of Ordinance 589, with the most recent contract for these services dating back to May of 2014. That contract expires on August 3rd of this year. In May of this year, the city released a request for proposals for refuse and recycling services, and the city subsequently received 3 responses to this RFP. Responses were received from the following refuse and recycling providers: Republic Services, SRC Incorporated, Walters Recycling and Refuse Incorporated. So this evening, the council will be discussing the information that was received in these RFP responses. But because of the unique situation and nature of the data that the council will be discussing during the meeting this evening, I wanted to provide you with an outline of certain relevant statutory constraints that state statutes have placed on your discussion of the responses to this request for proposals. So as you all know, Minnesota Statutes Chapter 13, otherwise known as the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act, regulates the collection, creation, storage, maintenance, dissemination, and access to government data by government entities, including the City of Forest Lake. And it establishes the presumption that government data are public and accessible by the public for both inspection and copying, unless there's a federal law, a state statute, or a temporary classification of that data that provides that that data is some type of non-public or not public data. So while the presumption is established by the Data Practices Act that all data collected and maintained by the city is public, and the public is therefore entitled to that data, unless the data is otherwise classified as not public, the data that you will be discussing this evening is data provided to the city in response to a request for proposals, and that data is, at this current time, categorized by state statutes as not public or private data. Specifically, State Statute 13.591, Subdivision 3B provides that data submitted by a business to a government entity in response to a request for proposal are private or not public data until the time and date specified in the solicitation that proposals are due, at which time the name of the responder becomes public. However, all other data in that responder's response to a request for proposal are private or non-public data until completion of the evaluation process. And for purposes of that section of state statutes, completion of the evaluation process means that the government entity, in this case the city, has completed negotiating the contract with the selected vendor. After a government entity, in this case the city, has completed the evaluation process, all remaining data submitted by responders are public, with the exception of trade secret data. In other words, at this point in the process, the only data that are public data are the names of the 3 companies that responded to that request for proposals. Now, despite the fact that all of the other data related to the RFP responses is not public data at this time, the council is not legally able to close the meeting to discuss this data. There is no exception under the open meeting law that would allow the council to have these discussions in any context other than this public meeting. Rather, you, the council, are required legally to discuss at this open meeting the RFP response data, and you may discuss this not public data because it relates to a matter within the scope of the council's authority, and it's reasonably necessary to conduct the business or agenda item that is before you this evening. Having said that, after this evening's meeting is adjourned, neither staff nor members of the council may disseminate any of that not public data that you will have been discussing here this evening until the city has completed negotiating a contract with the selected vendor, if one is selected this evening. This means that copies of the RFP response will not be provided to the public, and council members and staff should refrain from discussing it except at this public meeting. Following negotiations with that selected vendor, all data, again with the exception of any trade secret data, will become public and can be released at that time. While this may seem to make little sense, and you may be wondering why the council can sit up here tonight and discuss details such as proposed pricing and other terms found in those RFP responses, but as soon as the meeting adjourns, you cannot turn around and provide that same information to anyone in response to a data practices request or to the public, this seemingly complex and perhaps counterintuitive result is mandated by state law. And with that said, Mayor and members of the council, please let me know if you do have any questions at this point regarding this issue of discussion of not public data in a public meeting.
That was a lot. Questions?
We're still absorbing.
Questions for Bridget? Absolutely, go ahead.
I'm still confused what I can actually say without getting all of us in trouble. So we can discuss terms and services provided, dollar amounts, percentages, any of that, none of that?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. At this public meeting where these items will be discussed, you, the council, can discuss any data related to the RFP response. So you can discuss anything that was related to that RFP response, any data provided in that RFP response. That includes pricing, that includes service, that includes any relevant terms. So everything that you have received from the three respondents to that RFP can be discussed by the council at this public meeting because it is necessary for you as the council to have that discussion in order to take action related to this organized collection piece.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So full discussion and free discussion on all pricing, all services that are proposed. We have members of the media here tonight. We have members in the audience. This is broadcast on the web, broadcast on cable TV. That access to the meeting content is all public. But when we leave the meeting tonight, essentially the discussion at the council level has to stop until we're in another public meeting. Is that correct?
Mayor, members of the council, that's correct. So certainly, once you leave the meeting this evening, if there are questions about pricing or things along those lines, they can't be answered because that data is not public data. So even though you'll have just perhaps spent some time having that conversation, once you leave the meeting this evening, the data retains its original classification, and that classification will not change until there's a change in the status of the process with respect to these RFP responses, whether that would be to negotiate a contract or reject all proposals and go back to square one, which are really kind of some of the options the council has before it.
Thank you. Any further questions, clarification for Bridget? I want this to be as clear as possible and as it's not necessarily an intuitive law, so thank you. Our next agenda item is our open forum. Open forum is available at all meetings, and it is your opportunity to provide feedback to council. It is one-way feedback. We will have discussion as a council on all topics later in the agenda. I ask that you limit your comments to three minutes, because I believe we will have a fair number of open forum comments this evening. And if you are here tonight to specifically speak on the SRC issue, tonight, open forum is your only time to do so, as we don't have a public hearing planned for later in the meeting. I have a list, but if anyone wants to add their name to a list, I believe there's another one over on the sheet. With that said, we'll get started. And first tonight, we have Bob Hansen. If you could, when you approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record.
The trouble, you come early, you have to be first.
And welcome.
Thank you. Madam Mayor and Council, my name is Bob Hansen. My wife Bernie and I reside at 919 13th Avenue Southeast in Forest Lake, just down from St. Peter's Catholic Church. My wife couldn't make it tonight, so she said, you go to the council meeting or pick weeds. I thought it was better to come here. But what I want to do is both Bernie and I really totally support SRC. We felt that they have been doing an excellent job. And why change? Sometimes change can surprise you, but we would like to have them continue. They're a good community member also. That's it.
Thank you. Ron Schaefer. Good evening.
Ron Schaefer, Forest Lake. I have a few questions. You're not supposed to discuss this among yourselves, I guess. Who's going to monitor that? We have to trust you? Who? Okay, we'll let that go. I don't know what the problem is with getting another carrier, trash hauler. I've been up here over 40 years, and as long as I've had SRC, I've been very, very happy. So it makes me wonder who's complaining, or what is the complaint? And is the new trash hauler going to set a standard for less money and then raise the price after a short time? What causes all this change? This is really the problem with this type of being able to talk to you. You don't talk back to me, so I don't learn a darn thing. So my problem is, why do you want to change? Who brought this up? And what's the cause of it? Are there people who are dissatisfied with SRC? And if they're dissatisfied, how many are there? What's their complaint? Because, you know, like I say, I've been here quite a long time, and I've been very happy with SRC. And I hope we'll continue to have them. Thank you.
Donna Paul. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. My name is Donna, and I work with SRC on technology issues. I would like to thank the mayor, council persons, and most of all, the people of Forest Lake for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding the renewal of the contract with Forest Lake Sanitation. Marge asked me to speak about technology infrastructure at SRC. Because data and customer service are closely related, let's back up a minute to talk about CRM, or Customer Relationship Management. In business, we look at touch points with customers. A touch point is business jargon for any encounter where customers and business engage to exchange information, provide service, or handle transactions. Examples of touch points with your waste hauler are when you call to start or end service, at curbside when the recycling and trash is picked up, and when you call the office with a question or visit a website for more information. Customer service is present in all touch points, and it's how we connect with customers and how you know and trust us as a service provider. It's also when we mail a statement for services and you reply by paying the bill. We've heard there are some unhappy customers about paying the bill. Did you know that SRC offers 8 ways to pay your bill, plus a way to get a discount? We accept traditional checks and money orders by mail. You can walk in with cash, credit card, and checks, money orders. We accept bank-mailed bill pay, which can be set up securely and directly with your bank or financial institution. You can call the office and make a credit card payment, and there is a link on our website, mytrashservice.com, where you can make a single payment or set up recurring payments. There's no charge to you, and it's your choice. Did you know that SRC offers a 6% discount to customers who pay a year in advance? So you may wish for more pay options. We understand. And here is where it gets messy. According to Breach Level Index, a world leader in digital security, last year in 2018, roughly 4.5 to 5 billion records on the internet were exposed or stolen. Root causes of data breaches are mostly criminal attacks, which are malicious in their intent. Other causes are system glitches and human errors. With staggering breach statistics of reported damage to corporations, financial institutions, and even government and their constituents, SRC will take the most care to protect your records and financial data. Rushing for an online payment system does not seem wise to risk your data. Rest assured, we are working on a payment platform and will offer one in the near future. We like technology too. Please continue your positive reviews on Google. We read every one. Call the office if you have a problem or need help with a payment option. Sometimes mistakes are made and we correct the situation as quickly and efficiently as possible. In summary, we pride ourselves on CRM and data privacy. We look for ways to improve. It's SRC's company policy to continue developing a secure IT infrastructure, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve the city of Forest Lake and residents and hope to do so in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Prall?
My name is Richard Prall. I've worked with Cameron and Marge for 30 years, and we have a small business. We are a local business, and we have honored designation the entire time it was required. I remember a couple little things that we had issues with. We had a citywide cleanup, and I worked with the city on these. We had a traffic flow issue wherever we had it, and people from back then can remember that. We worked with the city on this traffic issue to try to get it so it wasn't such a catastrophe, okay? We ended up having it at SRC and giving coupons for discounts instead of the one Saturday morning when it's lined up all the way down 61, that kind of thing. And so we worked with the city because that's what we all wanted. I look forward to serving you as a garbage hauler in the next 5 years. And thank you.
Thank you. Jim Redfield? Welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Mayor, members of City Council, our staff members, and our audience, good evening. I am Jim Redfield. I live on Bridle Pass Villas on Lipizan Trail. I'm here tonight to thank the City Council, the Parks Commission, city staff, the local design company for designing the new playground equipment and installing that equipment at the Lakes Memorial Park. I have a personal experience with that. We had a great 4th. I had couple of my grandchildren here. We went down to the park to try it out. Some of the things there, it's a beautiful structure if you haven't seen it. It's beautifully designed. Also, it's handicapped accessible. And I think the feeling of my 2 grandkids is they give you a thumbs up for the equipment and for the fun they had. I'm going to switch a little bit here because I'm a member of the Forest Lake Area Rotary, and we're doing a fundraiser in August, and part of that money is going to help build another city equipment. That's going to be on the 8th of August from 5 to 9. There'll be a tour. It's called the Summerfest at the Chateau, which is a Carlson residence. You get a tour of the house, we'll have refreshments, there'll be a band, maybe dancing in the streets, I don't know. But half of the money raised after all our expenses will go to benefit, I believe it's Belts Park, is that how it's pronounced? And that's for new equipment and making handicapped accessible. Rotary motto is service above self, and we're trying to help with this project. So I want to say thank you for updating, maintaining our parks, bringing them up to handicapped accessibility, and providing these for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Moorhead. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. You've seen me before, you've heard me before, and I'm here not as a broken record, but as another advocate for one of the finest companies that I've ever experienced in the Forest Lake area. You know I go out a lot, you know I talk a lot, and with the exception of one person who I guess now I asked a question in church and she's sitting here, so I have to acknowledge this, with the exception of the one person who's not in favor, I have not heard from one person, and you know I'm an honest person, not one person that hasn't said, please keep SRC, please let the council know that they've been here all these years. They employ all these people that have families. They've worked with us. I know the last administrator was a Rotarian, and Cameron and Marge were Rotarians a long time ago, for a long time. We can ask them for anything at any time, and they do it for free. They put their hand in their pocket when something is needed. They give scholarships to the school kids. They pay taxes in Wyoming towards our school. And I think it's imperative of us that we realize 55 years, they've been picking up trash before some of you, most of you, were born. So you're looking at taking a company that has been here longer than you and saying for what, a few dollars maybe, that it's worth it? It's not. And I know I wanted to get more information on the second draft, but the administrator had yet to call and give me back. He's new. I don't expect that he knows our community. And I wanted a few minutes to bring him up to speed on some of the people that I talked to. And I was here for the police, fighting with all of you, and very thankful that we saved the police. But why did it come up? Oh, some people thought maybe we could do it a little cheaper. Maybe they'd have services that we have, that they would have that we didn't have. And what did we say? No way, Jose. We want them no matter what, because we know who they are, we know how they've performed, and we can trust them. Now I look at my bills, and I brought them before you from 1992 till today. There has been little or no difference. We know their pattern of how they charge. We know when they raise and when they don't. We know all of the things about the billing that they've done and how much it's been. We know nothing about a new company coming in. They may come in cheaper, but what happens next? You have no history of what they're going to do tomorrow. You have 55 years of history with this company, and I hope you take that into consideration, because there's a lot of us in this town that are really praying that you keep what we've had, what has worked, what we trust, and what we love. Thank you.
Thank you. Marge Strand. Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor and City Council, thank you very much for hearing me, and thank you to the people here who are supporting us. It's very gratifying. I'd like to speak up tonight on behalf of my company, Forest Lake Sanitation. It originated in Forest Lake over 50 years ago under the leadership of Cameron and myself. We've been in the refuse and recycling business for the city since purchasing this company in 1985. That was 34 years ago. The city knows that we employ local residents and provide thousands of dollars of donation, both monetarily and in kind, to the Forest Lake community. I want to make these points not because we want a pat on the back, but rather because I want everyone to understand how grateful we are for the opportunity to be a part of the city. We believe strongly in returning business to the people who support us. We want to remain the refuse and recycling hauler for Forest Lake well into the following years. It's my understanding that you may be voting on who to award the next 5-year contract to tonight. I am here to answer any questions you have regarding our submission to the request for proposals. I want to thank the SRC employees, many of whom are Forest Lake residents, and whose livelihood is dependent on keeping this contract, who are here tonight in support, as well as the many Forest Lake residents who are either here or have called to encourage us. In choosing our company, your residents will have no interruption in service or need to change banking arrangements for payments. SRC is proud of our past performance and is excited about continuing to provide A1 plus service at a fair price to the residents of Forest Lake. We are the smallest company to respond to this RFP, and we are not a multi-billion-dollar company that the others are and have no desire to be. We choose to be locally owned, locally managed, thoughtful, meaningful members of the city in which we live. Our size has many advantages. For instance, you can call our offices and ask to speak to me, and I'll answer. I'll be on the other end of the line. We donate many dollars every year to support local organizations and fund fundraisers. We are a local employer and taxpayer. Forest Lake is our largest customer, and we value you. I'd like to refer right now to this pamphlet that came out just yesterday from the Forest Lake Connection. We all get it in the mail. It has a local theme. And I would like to quote from Steve Stegner, one paragraph that he wrote. He said, "I know when I dine at locally owned restaurants, I'm keeping the benefits of my spending local. These are the owners who donate to our churches, our service organizations, sponsor our children's sports teams, pay for their kids' dance lessons, and the like. I know my spending is helping a local family raise their family. I want food that is prepared on site, not something out of a bag. Call me crazy, really. I don't need to supersize anything." Moving on, in August of 2014, SRC initiated an annual coupon worth $60 to our Forest Lake customers. The purpose of these coupons was to increase the volume of recycling waste collected from the residents. The coupons are distributed by mail to every customer with their August statement. To date, residents have redeemed 2,885 coupons for the recycling of refrigerators, stoves, washers, dryers, dishwashers, furnaces, electronics, and tires. Multiply those 2,885 coupons by the $60 value, we have returned revenue to the citizens of Forest Lake over the past 58 months of $173,100. These coupons are being redeemed on an average of 2 per day, year-round, year after year, for the last 5 years. These numbers have been consistently reported to the city on our monthly recycling reports and can be verified as such. At this time, we are offering an additional annual $60 coupon for the disposal of couches, mattresses, bulky furniture items. These waste items have no recycle value to the city, but will benefit our customers. We believe it will produce similar positive participation from the homeowners we serve and have a positive financial incentive for disposal of unwanted items. The potential savings to the customers of Forest Lake is $120 per year per customer in waste services. These measurable discounts, which add value to the contract with the city of Forest Lake, are not visible on our numbers that were in our request for proposal. They should be taken into consideration when you choose our company to continue servicing the city of Forest Lake. In closing, SRC, its employees, and I personally appreciate the partnership we've enjoyed over the last 34 years. I live here. I take pride in this community. We all want to continue to service your rubbish and recycling needs. Thank you for your consideration. Do you have any questions about my proposal or about our company?
Thank you. Next up, Elaine Bain. Welcome.
Madam Mayor and the council, hi. I've been living in Forest Lake since 1966. Since that day, we used SRC. They have been wonderful. We got 5 tons, and we have a daycare. And I tell you, we use 44 diapers a day. We have 8 children in diapers. And they never complained when they pick it up because it smells terrible, okay? And we've been satisfied with SRC. If they want to raise their price by $10 a month, I'm all for it because they deserve it. for the service they do. You know, my car insurance goes up every year. And I never have an accident. And they don't raise their prices. I think there's not another business in Forest Lake that doesn't raise their prices. So what all they have to ask for, they have it coming. And leave them in Forest Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Butler.
Hello,
Welcome.
I'm Leslie Butler. I live at 22400 Evergreen Circle, and I am here also to talk about SCR. I have no problems with SCR. Their service is good. I do have a problem, however, with the items they no longer take from me in recycling, and I brought some of those items to show you. This no longer gets picked up. It's a number 1, but it doesn't have a small neck. This also is a number 1. It doesn't get picked up. The yogurt's a number 5. It doesn't get picked up, nor does this. This is a problem for me. I care about the environment, and I know that the first plastic bottle that was ever made has not had enough time to decompose yet. I want a place for the plastic to go. I've called the county. I know I can go to Woodbury, and I can drop off all my plastics 1 through 7 free of charge, but this is a large county, and that's a long way to go. And I'm retired, so I can make that drive once a month if I have to, but I know a lot of people can't. I also know that Walters does pick up 1, 2, and 5, and when I called them today just to clarify, to ask if there were any restrictions on their number 1 and 2 plastic, like did it have to have a small neck like SRC requires, they told me no, there were no restrictions. If it was a 1, a 2, or a 5, they would pick it up. And that was before I was not aware at the time that they were one of the other people making a bid, but they were my former trash hauler in my old home, so I called them. So I thank you for allowing me to make my comments.
Thank you. Michael Keane. Welcome.
Thank you. Michael Keane, SAL Commander at the American Legion. I'm here on a positive note. I'm not here to talk trash. I just want to thank the mayor, the city council, everyone here for the fabulous 4th of July we just went through. Public Works did an awesome job. You know, every day, you drive through this town, the streets are clean. The police department, over the last 8 days, including, from last Monday, we start setting up. It's pretty much on a 5-day deal. It takes us 9 days, 2 days to set up, 2 days to tear down. Police were there every day. I know they're going to talk probably later when it's their turn to talk, but I just want to thank everybody, the fire department for what they do here, but especially the city for the support they gave the American Legion to put on such a great job. And it was one of the best fireworks displays, the grand finale that I've seen in probably 20 years or more. It was just awesome. So we put that on, we pay for that, we fundraise it. I know the city donates some stuff, and a lot of the people in the city here donates during our fundraising activities, but it's just thank you, everybody. It was, as far as I know, it went over very well, but when other people talk, they'll give us their opinion. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Bev Mathiasen. Welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to just take a moment. I'm Bev Mathiasen. I'm with Republic Services, and I'm located at 8661 Randova Street Northeast in Blaine. I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you, Madam Mayor, councilors, staff, for the opportunity to submit a proposal to serve your city. We take a lot of pride in what we do. I know to most, it's not a very glamorous job. Collecting trash, recycling. Our folks here, we are a national company, and our folks are local. In fact, we have some folks that live right here in your community. Again, if you have any questions, please call on myself or our Director of Operations, Brandon Schuler. Later on, I see that we'll be talking a little bit more in depth about the waste. And again, a heartfelt thank you for the opportunity to submit our proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Geoff Klein. Welcome.
Well, hello. Geoff Klein, 2271 Ideal Avenue. Mayors, members of the council, thanks for giving me my 3 minutes here. My quick 2 cents is obviously an RFP is in of itself, a regular government practice and probably something that needs to be done. However, the cynic in me thinks that, there's other reasons behind it and you already kind of have a plan of what you're doing, but the pie in the sky Geoff you all know and love kind of thinks otherwise. So with that said, I just kind of want to say that kind of like when you're hiring people, and if they're a veteran, they get like a point when you're doing your scorecard or a preferential treatment. I kind of look at Marge and her group as veterans of, doing this for 55 years. And I think that should kind of count for something. And I have ample experience with both Republic all the way back to when it was called Wood Lake, I believe. So I know them well and I know they do a good job, but even the best company can come in and there's still a learning curve here. It's hard to put a price on that, so I hope that should count for something. And I think Karen made the analogy of kind of like the cops. We all rallied to save them for reasons that, went beyond X's and O's and dollars, so. And on that, other thing, my actual thing before I run out of time, is I had a quick question on the RFP. 1.3, section 1.3 in page 2, it says, city at its discretion may decide to award a contract to one hauler servicing the entire community or award multiple contracts that then assign service areas. I don't like that because if you're going to award multiple haulers, then you should just open it up and have a true open system, which I know St. Paul argues all the time. But what you're really doing, as long as you're going to go down the road we've been of awarding a monopoly, then I guess we can stick with that because that's what we've always done. So just kind of look into that or maybe explain it. I know you're not allowed to explain it now, but certainly kind of discuss that. And I don't know, sometimes I write a lot of RFPs in my line of work, so I know sometimes you use a template, you cut and paste. So for all I know, I'm reading into something that doesn't even apply here, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. So with that, I probably had more, but I tend to babble, so I'll just wrap it up. So anyway, I think being a veteran of what we're doing should count for something, and I don't know how you're scoring it or how you're doing it. So if you could just maybe discuss your system or how you're doing, especially if you're voting on it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else signed up for open forum? That is the end of the list I have in front of me. Is there anything else? Is there anybody else that wants to speak on this issue? Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Alvin, RE 10255 17th Street North. And what I'm bringing up is, you're talking about these RFPs. I worked in government contracting for 30 years. And to contaminate this thing, you're dealing with a service product. You're not buying a vehicle or a B-1 bomber like I proposed. So you can't identify what you're getting from different contractors. My biggest thing with SRC is, like I said, is comparing, say, you 3 girls up there, okay? You go to a hairdresser. You pay $50 for a haircut, okay? Let's get you a cheaper one for $30. Are you going to like what you're getting? And going back to logistics, I live in the township, 32 square miles. We've got no street lights, got no fire hydrants, got no nothing out there. These people know what they're doing. They've got the logistics of being out there on Tuesday. They'll be out there tomorrow morning. They got a set routing here. I'm coming through Scandy into my house. And so they've got a routine that's been established for years. So to upset the apple cart, it doesn't make any sense to contaminate with these RFPs. It isn't needed, as far far as I'm concerned. So let's stick with something you know works, and it's local, instead of a multinational or a global company. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will close open forum. Thank everybody for their comments. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Council, before you are items 6A through 6H. I will entertain a motion to approve or any changes.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through H.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Consent agenda items approved. Okay, next item on our agenda is regular agenda item 7A, which is the refuse and recycling RFP. Patrick, you distributed a host of materials to council just prior to the meeting. I believe our order tonight will be to have you walk us through information presented. We will then go into a session of council Q&A, clarification, and then ultimately some discussion.
Thank you. On your desk is spreadsheets that outline the responses from each of the vendors in the different areas that we asked them to quote on. I've summarized that in a memo as best as possible. As Bridget said earlier, we had an ordinance 589 since 2009 that allowed the exclusive collection of refuse and recycling materials. And as any good business should do, the contract was coming to an end in August, and being a responsible business organization, we wanted to make sure that we had the best services for the best prices. That's the intent of the RFP. The main job of whoever the chosen vendor will be was basically to pick up refuse and recycling. That's the majority of what they do. The second after that will be waste, yard waste material. Those three items comprise the largest amount of things that each of these vendors do. So to summarize, we got the responses and we asked for a monthly cost, and without reading every month for every year, I will kind of summarize what the first year is going to do, what it looks like as far as dollars go with the vendors. Again, we had 3 different vendors submit proposals. Republic submitted a proposal, combined proposal for recycling and refuse collection at $232.80 annually. SRC's annual cost would be $309.72 annually. And Walters would be $260.04 annually. If you extrapolate that by the number of participants that we believe we are servicing, which on the last report from SRC was 4,879 customers, the annual cost for the first year of Republic would be $1,135,831. SRC $1,511,123, and Walters $1,268,735. Looking at those responses, we then totaled what the 5-year cost would be based on the stated price increases in each of their proposals. Republic's 5-year cost for the collection of refuse, recycling, and would be $5,959,600. SRC's would be $7,832,551, and Walters would be $6,659,249. The difference there for the total 5-year cost of that contract, the Walters quote is approximately $699,648 above the low bid of Republic, and SRC's is $1,872,950 over the low bid of Republic. That indicates what the residents of Forest Lake will be paying depending on which contract you decide to choose. Yard waste, we gave you some information there that the annual cost for Republic would be $118 per year for each bag. I'm sorry, $118.64 for a cart, with an extra cart of $20 per season. And they would take up to 5 bags over and above what was in the cart for no charge. SRC is a $70 cost for the cart, and they would take each bag over 2 would be the cost. They would take over 2 what's in the cart. They also indicated that the service can include up to 3 carts in the process. Walter's annual cost was $125 for the cart. Again, they would also take 5 bags for no charge over the cart, and it would be $7 additional per season for an extra cart. Overflow, that's if you have the cart, your refuse cart is full. And what we've outlined in the RFP was that you could put the refuse cart and 3 bags out, and they would be part of the regular pickup with no charge. Anything over 3 bags, Republic would charge $2.75. SRC would charge $4 per bag, and Walters $4 per bag. Valet service, and we talked about this when we did the RFP. The valet service is where the company would stop the truck, get out of the truck, and go and get the carts if they weren't out. And basically, this would be to address handicap, senior citizens who can't basically reel their cart down the driveway. Now, I know would be some challenges with there, depending on our driveways and our roads and things like that. But we decided it was important to find out about that. And Republic would charge $10 for that service. SRC does not offer that service, and Walters would charge $30 for that service. No out fee. Now, no out fee is that if you sleep late or forget the night before and you don't get your garbage out by the time the truck comes and they pass you by, what would they charge to come back and get it? Based on the responses, Republic would have no charge to come back and get your garbage. SRC stated a $35 charge to come back and return to get your garbage, and Walters stated a $50 charge. We asked for refuse and recycling pickup at special events and for the city buildings. Now, in my experience, this is a very common practice in the waste industry. I've talked to many people in the area, other administrators, that this is included in their contracts and included at most of the time, if not all the time, at no charge. However, Republic said they would not charge us for this service. SRC does not offer a free service to this. And by the way, the city spends about $12,400 a year collecting from city buildings and special events. And Walters also would have no charge for this service. I said that. I think that's really all we have to say as far as the dollar amount goes. The other thing you have a memo in front of you regarding recycling. As one of the speakers said before, SRC picks up number 1s and number 2s. And Republic Service will pick up number 1s through number 7s. And the speaker, I believe that Walters will also pick up 1 through 7. And that's what we saw and looked at their website, even though. So on.
Said 1 through 7, correct? 1 through 7?
Yes.
She said 1, 2, and 5.
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll have to, if there's an issue there.
Yeah.
But reading what we read through the proposals and through websites and things, we just gave you a quick summary of what each of them take and how we can handle things like that. That's pretty much it. We looked at it as a straightforward issue as regarding service levels, cost, and anything else that we could think of that made some sense. I think that's about all I have as far as the costs go. I'm sure you have plenty of questions on service levels, costs, or how we came up with all of those, so I will yield that to you and try to answer any questions you may have.
Maybe Before we open up for questions, just a quick summary of kind of tour of the documents in front of us. Council, we have the refuse and recycling collection RFP memo, which has the cost summary. Also is the longer spreadsheet that is the same cost breakouts. Patrick, if you could, can you summarize, I take that back. You summarized in the very last page has the 5-year annual summary.
Yes.
Which is the same as what's in the memo.
Correct.
Okay. Just,
The other thing I failed to mention is one of the other proposals that we could consider if you want, if you happen to choose Republic Recycling, they offer what's called a partnership program. We did not include that as a basis of comparison because neither of the other two vendors proposed anything like this. What the partnership program is basically saying, if the recycling market's good, and we pick up your recycling and we sell it for a good price, we may be able to lower that price. However, if the recycling market's bad and we pick up your recycling, we're not getting, the price is going to go up. So it really is kind of like playing the market and playing the recycling market. You can either have a real good, and it's a 12-month look back as far as what your experience is, what the experience probably of the recycling market is. But we chose not to include that as an option right now, again, because we were trying to compare each three of the vendors on an equal footing. But if that's something that the council wants to consider, we can, but right now I'm not recommending that we go down that way.
very good. And then also, final document in front of council is the recycling summary. Patrick outlined major components of the recycling summary, but this goes into further detail. With that, I'll open up for questions from council to staff.
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Going back to the memo, is a question for Patrick. The summary of the yard waste results, I just wanted to clarify. Republic, the annual cost is $118.64. That only includes one cart, correct?
Yes, that includes one cart.
And one cart for Walters, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to.
And Republic will give you another cart for $20 extra a season, so it's a seasonal extra $20. And Walters would give you an extra cart for $7 a season.
Okay.
And what was our SRC's extra?
SRC would provide, let's see where we at here, $10 a season.
But do they provide up to 3 carts at?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And then Patrick, just confirmation of your math.
Okay.
The last page of the pricing summary where you wrap in the total cost of trash plus refuse plus the yard waste, you're
Yeah.
considering that the yard waste has about 25% participation?
Correct. I asked for the current participation of yard waste customers, which is 1,423 customers.
Yep.
So we tried to extrapolate that out based on the proposals given to us by each of the firms and what that may cost. Now, the reason, I mean, it's obviously not everybody participates in that. Not everybody would have valet service. So the base cost, the core cost is the recycling and refuse pickup. Everything else is kind of the sidelines, like an a la carte menu, but because not everybody participates in each one of those other things that we asked for.
I have a question on the recycling issue. I happened to be out at Castlewood this weekend, and the number of plastic glasses out there just absolutely astounded me, and it just kind of brought me back to thinking about this and the importance of really taking a hard look at this. But I would like to understand, and I couldn't quite see it in the copy of the RFP I received from either Republic or Walters, how they're dealing kind of with this recycling issue, kind of the challenges we're having, the lack of sales.
Right. It's my understanding that with Walters, they take it to Waste Management Sorting Facility. If they can come up and comment if they're in the room. And Republic has their own recycling center in Minneapolis that they do the sorting.
Okay.
The more they collect, the better off they're going to be, obviously. So part of the process here should be to further encourage recycling, public education and things like that, because unless I miss my discussion with the firms, that the more they get, the better off they're going to be, because they can sell more. Now, also with education, there's a contamination issue that each firm has to deal with, and how they deal with it would be a response that they would have to give to. But if the firms would like to respond how they handle the recycling market currently, if they're in the audience, I'm sure they would come up and respond to that.
Yeah, because my concern is that just because they're picking up doesn't necessarily mean that it's being disposed the way we think it should be.
Correct.
And so, there might be reasons why, the valid reasons why you only pick up 1 and 2 or whatever. And the other ones that are getting picked up, what exactly happens to that material? I've got some real concerns about that too, but the other thing too, in these numbers that were proposed, I'd like to know, I know that Republic, they pick up trash from some neighboring communities. I believe there was listed in there as White Bear and White Bear Township and Centerville, I believe, and that kind of thing. Do their numbers reflect that bid?
We did not look at the other
I just want to make sure that
cities.
some kind of a fair comparison.
Yeah, we did not do the research on any of the other cities, because we're really trying to compare the current, the 3 vendors against each other, not against other cities. And also, when you go against other cities, it depends on when that was bid and what the market was at that time and what the length of the contract was. So if, let's just say, for example, White Bear bid this out in 2015 and it was a 7-year contract, it could be significantly different because A, it's a 7-year contract, and B, the economics were different in 2015 than they are now. So it'd be kind of difficult.
I understand that, but it shouldn't be more. I wouldn't think it'd be more necessarily.
I think that depends on the market forces, on what's going on in the market.
I think it's something that I'd like to find out. But, and then the other thing that isn't being taken into consideration either are the coupons that are offered annually. So I do have some questions about that.
Councilmember Husnick's question prompted a question that I had as well. So SRC offers the drop-off service at their facility in Wyoming and is providing some coupons to residents for that value. The other 2 providers don't have that same facility, close geographic proximity. But if I want to make sure I understand, they are offering at-home pickup.
Correct. With Walters Recycling, they offer at-home pickup, but they also have a facility that you can drop off in Blaine if you wish. And I gave you a set of notes earlier in either this week or something that specifically says it. But yes, you could still drop off at Walters in Blaine because they have a recycling center. Republic has a call, you pick it up.
Okay.
As far as the coupons go, SRC just stated that for the 58 months, or basically 60 months, they had $173,000 worth of coupons. That was the number. And now that they're offering another $60, so basically doubling that cost. So that's in the $350,000 range you can adjust for the coupons. That's the value of the coupons compared to what the overall 5-year, what the annual cost is. So that's kind of quick math in my head that I've done, but it's about 350,000.
Maybe let's break this into pieces. Any further questions or clarifications related specifically to pricing and the pricing comparisons that's been provided?
I could, Madam Mayor, I can only speak for myself on this particular item because of the yard waste thing. In particular, I mean, we have that service, and quite frankly, we love it because of the fact that we got a lot of big trees in our yard, and this coming fall, it's going to be a godsend. And so, just for me, that's just me. There's not one. I'm just one of the 1,400 or whatever it is. It's a great value, and to me, it's worth it. And to me, that really offsets the cost of what we get picked up for garbage and recycling. The recycling hasn't been an issue with us, but perhaps there's some explanations for that too. But I'm really concerned about the local business. I'm concerned about the tax base and what they pay in taxes and into our school system and all that. There may be some employees that work for the other company that live in the city of Forest Lake. That's great, but the business does not pay into our school system. So I just want to make that absolutely plain, that how I feel about that. Me personally, it's not an issue with. I know it's going to be some more money, but that's just me. That's all I have at the moment.
So not hearing any other questions on specific to price. Any further clarifications around services, recycling? Any clarification we want to have from staff before we move into more of a conclusion conversation?
Would you like to hear from the representatives regarding recycling at Walters and
If the representatives are here and able
Republic?
to speak, I would welcome that opportunity to hear. Specifically, I think the questions are specifically around outside of the number 1 and number 2 recycling, the narrow necks, what is happening with those
Yeah, I think the
markets.
question is what was pickup and then what's the market impact, I think was what you're getting at. So.
Yeah, and then I also had another recycling question in the Republic RFP. They talk about a processing fee and adjustment related to that demand, I think, for recycling, and the statement should unforeseen circumstances cause at least a 20% change in the Republic's recycling process charge. Both parties agree to implement a mid-year adjustment to the recycling processing charge. And I'm just curious as to kind of historically what that's looked like. You know,
Does Republic representative want to come up and address that? Those?
People vote on it.
Councilmember Byström, the specific clause that you're looking at, is that page 114, do I see?
Page 114, yes, of the Republic RFP.
So maybe first question is around, we understand the secondary recycling market has been challenging. And so your response to that and how you've responded as an organization to that, and then how you've translated those challenges to your residential customers.
Yes, with the onset of China Sword, it's been a very challenging time in the recycling market. I mean, there was a time here not that long ago where cardboard, the market was over $100 per ton, and it's well below $50 per ton now. So we've had some challenges. The piece for us there is in our national headquarters in Phoenix, we have a team that specializes in just that, placing our product, selling it at the highest return possible. All of the places where we take, let's say, plastics 1 through 7. In fact, we have a very robust list of recyclables. Myself, I serve on the REC committee, work closely with MPCA, and we make sure that our residents can recycle everything possible at curbside. And of course, with items that aren't curbside recyclable, then that's where your county really helps by saying, okay, where do you want to take your Christmas lights? we have a depository for that. So getting back to your original question there, with our team back in Phoenix, they're able to find the nearest local and regional markets that will give us the best return. We have very clean recyclables that we're able to sell. We are not stockpiling our recyclables. I know that you've probably read in the newspapers across the nation that some of the recycling is getting thrown out. In fact, in a lot of areas, they're having to landfill. Not here. That's not happening here. We own 2 recycling centers, one in Inver Grove Heights and one in Minneapolis. And I will tell you, it's a really neat experience to go and tour those if you ever get a chance to. We've got great teams there that sort the material. It's coming in clean. We do a great job of helping the community in terms of education. Empty, clean, dry is our slogan there. Again, taking every piece that we can and recycling. And by the way, caps on those water bottles, folks. So we're able to recycle everything that is on our list here, and I can leave some of this behind. I believe there is in the RFP an example. So if you have any questions specifically, feel free to ask.
Thank you, and then
Can you respond to that, kind of that clause in here, the annual recycling processing fee adjustment?
Okay. What we did is we presented 2 options for you to take a look at. We have the partnership model, which in that case, what happens is we share in the risk that the recycling commodities could continue to decrease, but we also share in the reward. Let's say over a 5-year period, the recycling markets have recovered. In that case, they've recovered. Now the value of that commodity pays for the cost of actually processing it, and there's some profit left. We share that then in a revenue share at 50%. And I want to say with that partnership program, the thing that's unique about it is that we give you 100% of the value of the material that we collect from your community to help offset that cost. So the remaining portion truly is covering what the cost is after we've applied the revenue from the sale of the material. There's no profit in it at this time, but we remain hopeful that more local markets will open up. Some paper mills have been purchased and are starting to open up. So it truly is a national concern, and I think locally we're doing quite well.
Just for clarification, the annual recycling process fee and adjustment, does that only reflect the partnership model? Is that what that is?
Yes.
It does not reflect the fixed model?
Right. Yes, we propose 2 models, one which is fixed and one that is the partnership model. Do you have any more questions?
you mentioned that currently markets, there are no value in this model. I think one of Councilmember Bystrom's question was on recent performance. Has that distant,
There
off
is-
the top of your head, what last time that was profitable? Has it?
Yeah, we've watched a lot of the commodities continue to decrease. There's still value in aluminum and in your metals. Again, it's very volatile, the market right now. And so it's up and down, but it has been pretty much a continual decline at this time. And if you'd like specific numbers, I'd be happy to submit that to staff for you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have a follow-up question.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of information about recycling, so I'm trying to wrap my brain around this, but I might be having you answer a question you've already answered, but I just need further clarification. So if you take 1 through 7, and you're saying that you can find a place for this to go, but if there's not a market, how does it not stockpile up? Where does it go then?
We
Who
have
buys it?
markets for our materials.
Okay. It's just maybe not a profitable
and
market.
we're told what we need to collect. I mean, we comply by MPCA rules and we collect it. We make it easy. When we went to single sort, we made it easy for the consumer, for the residents, so that, you put your recyclables in and you let us sort it. We're able to move our product. We sort through it very well. Occasionally, we get some things in there, some contaminants, and we do audits on our cities. I have some cities where they have low contamination level of 4.8%, and one as high as 19%. That could be a garden hose. That could be diapers, believe it or not. There's just a number. Plastic bags. You'd be really surprised at how many plastic bags we see in recycling. And, so it's that education and partnership where we work with the city to provide the education to the producer.
I have another follow-up.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hold on just one moment. I don't believe we have a representative from Walter. Do we have a representative from Walters? And do you want to come up and we'll give equal opportunity to all of the providers here?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Mike Morose. I'm the CEO of Walters. Very briefly, I'll echo pretty much everything that Bev said from Republic, but just 2 points of clarification, questions that are coming up. So we collect 1 through 7, just as Republic does. By state law, none of that can be landfilled, right? So there's chatter in the back of the room of it has to be thrown away, it has to be thrown away because SRC is not collecting it. That's not true. There's markets for everything. As Bev said, those markets are continuing to be in decline. One of the questions was about when did this happen? And it really started when China cut off the world in terms of recycling in April, May of 2018. So prior to that, there was virtually all materials, there was a positive, profitable market for them, and that's changed dramatically. And as Bev said, it's continuing to drop. We expect over the next couple of years, hopefully that'll come back, but as of now, it's continuing to drop. But everything's collected, everything has a market, nothing is thrown away.
So when you say
Thank
it
you.
has a market, what do you mean by that?
Somebody will buy it and process it into some other recycled plastic material, in that case, or glass. Many states have, in the Midwest, there are local markets. On the coasts, because if you think about it, the nature of shipping, without getting into too many details, products would come from China, electronics, consumer electronics. We don't make anything in the United States from a manufacturing standpoint, relatively speaking. So everything would come from China. The coasts had an advantage where they could put the recycled materials into those ships, send it back to China, where they would make boxes and plastic wrap and everything else. Those markets dried up. In the Midwest, there are more local areas and businesses that do take those commodities. So we're at a little bit of an advantage. If you do some reading about some of the coasts in Oregon and even some states that are very, very positive on recycling have cut off glass. So no more recycling of glass. Many plastics they're not recycling anymore. We're not at that point, and we probably won't get to that point here. But the important thing to know is there are markets. They're horrible, but there are markets, and everything is recycled. Nothing is thrown away. By state law, we can't do that.
Thank you. And before you leave, any further questions?
Well, that answered my question, because I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't collected and then tossed off to the side somewhere. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll give equal opportunity to all of the providers if somebody from SRC wants to come forward specifically to recycling.
Don Peterson, I'm a driver.
Welcome.
For SRC. I worked for Waste Management. And what we do with the recycling is pick it up from the MRF and bring it to Burnsville to the landfill. It all gets buried. Everything that's the wrong numbers. Everything that's in a bag gets thrown in, compacted. We bring it to Burnsville and bury it. So that number 1 through 7, I don't know where that's being sold at. SRC takes the time, they open every bag. They have guys that work in that room because that bag gets thrown away. And so when you get told all these things about everything's recyclable, it is not. Not cost efficient. And me being a driver, I haul all this. That's all I do.
Thank you.
I hope I answered your question.
Muddying the water, if nothing else.
On that same note, I have spoken with employees who are working for Recycle America Waste Management's facility, and they tell me they are recycling number 1 and number 2 and number 5 plastic, whatever it is. And the rest of it is going to the burner in Minneapolis, the Herc burner, where it is burned for BTU value. On a positive note for Forest Lake Sanitation, we take some commodities that are not common to the other haulers. We take clean used clothing that is redistributed for within our community and given to different venues where people need clothing. We have quite a healthy used clothing program. We take drain oil from your car if you're one of those people who changes the oil at home. We take your car batteries curbside. We also take sharps from the people who have diabetic use and needles in their home. To answer more of your questions, back in 2017, when we were hauling down to Recycle America Waste Management's facilities, we were getting revenue of about $1,700 a month from all that we were taking down there from Forest Lake. It barely paid our gas for taking 25, 30 loads down there every week. Okay, starting in April or May, I got a $20,000 bill from them for recycling. That's when I came to you and asked for help. The market's just turned upside down. And you need to know that every piece of plastic, whatever the number is made with a different chemical. It's melted at a different temperature, a different process for manufacturing it. So when they talk about reusing it, there are parameters that they have to abide by in order to find a reuse for this. It can't all just be put in a pot and cooked and turned into something, a park bench. It doesn't work that way. Canada recently has made a law that they are banning all single-use plastic by 2021. There are many states in the United States that are no longer picking up paper. Paper has a negative value. They can't reuse it. We're being asked to recycle things, and it's all, it sounds like such a wonderful, good thing, we're all saving the earth. But we're not. It's a lot of lip service. And yes, people are putting all kinds of things, all the numbers in our plastic, but you need to know that they're not being reused and they are being thrown away. Anything else? Did I answer everybody's question?
Any other further questions?
That was a big one for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for staff related to the services proposed?
I'm just looking at my notes.
While you're finding your notes, I do have another question. Patrick, one of the things that's happened over the last 5 years is we've had previous council entertain some requests for rate adjustments, specifically when the recycling market crashed. What's your expectation, putting the profit sharing recycle model of Republic aside, putting that aside, assume that we went with a standard rate, because I hear one of the concerns of the public is, well, it's easy to underbid, come in early with a low bid, but then what's going to happen with rates? We have 5-year rates in front of us. What's your expectation of allowances within a contract for rate adjustment?
Well,
Gas
there's
prices,
built-in,
walk us through that.
Each have, there's a pickup cost and there's disposal cost. And if I recall, everyone quoted, SSC combined, but the other ones have a disposal cost, which is, and even SRC said in their bid that the county is considering going from $79 to $85 a ton, I believe was.
82 is the proposal,
82.
but they won't know until the 25th of July.
So the disposal cost may change. Now, depending on who you pick, the first year obviously would be set based on what that is or what the contract negotiation is. But that's going to be the same for any any of the vendors, that whatever it's costing to dump at the county site, that may change. So sometimes they're called tipping fees, sometimes they're disposed, but that may change with the first year. As far as everything else, as far as the pickup costs, those are designated in the responses, and I would expect to have those honored as far as that goes. The only other difference that the 3 bids had is SRC is talking about a fuel surcharge adjustment where the others don't, and that would be part of a contract negotiation if we would allow something like that or not.
Okay.
And just with fuel surcharges, if we ever went down that road, fuel surcharges are very interesting because when they get put in place, they usually stay there, and if the gas goes down, they sometimes don't go down with it. We would make that a two-way street if we were doing that contract negotiation with a fuel charge.
Mm-hmm. So there's not an expectation for a CPI adjustment or any sort of a
no
cost?
Each vendor has given us a 5-year quote on the pickup costs and what they believe will cost them to pick it up. Again, it's the disposal cost.
Correct. Okay.
That's the wild card, but that's for anybody who's doing this kind of business.
And the expectation is that because everyone's dumping at the same disposal facility, again, uniform across the board, should not be a differentiator.
Yeah, I believe they're all
between
required to dump at the county site anyway, so it doesn't really matter what company you do as far as that goes. They all have to go to the county site.
Okay.
Is that a potential kind of a negotiating place around CPI or a flat percentage rate not to exceed? Or would we?
Well, I think the language would have to establish a baseline price and then talk about adjustments based on disposal costs and how that's enacted by the county, whether the tipping fees go up, whether they go down, which they never will, but whether they go up and how much they go up and things like that. So we will look at that particular portion when we start a contract negotiation with whoever the vendor may be.
Maybe a good time also to point out, kind of clarify timing. Here we are on Monday, July 8th.
Yes.
We have a contract that expires in early August.
August 3rd?
August 3rd. Staff's recommendation for next steps, you want to walk us through?
Well, the next step, it depends on the vendor that you decide to choose. If you choose to renew with SRC, then I'm sure that's the pickup and disposal there will not be any rush to make that switch. In speaking with both Republic and Walters, if either of them were the chosen vendor, they have to hustle because it's 3 weeks before the first pickup date, which is August 5th. Both are confident that they can make that date. It will be a monumental task for them, but I believe in speaking quite lengthy discussion on that particular portion because of the circumstances here, I'm confident that they will be able to meet that obligation. Now, of course, there'll be some bumps and bruises on the way. What we will do internally is we have an intern who gave you the recycling memo, who's here until, I believe, the middle of August. She will handle any dedicated to handle the citizens' phone calls and things like that to try to smooth that out with any of our citizens if there's issues that the company can't seem to resolve.
Okay. Other questions from council, discussion?
I would, obviously there's a kind of a disagreement on this recycling issue, which is kind of concern to me, and it's making it difficult for me because this is an important issue within this contract for me and for a lot of the people that I've heard from. And so I would really like, to see if we can't, kind of rectify this dissonance a little bit that we have here. I'm not sure if we can get that done objectively or not. I'm feeling a little stuck.
Yeah, I guess that depends on what you need to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
The only caution, again, I have is the timetable that we're
Right.
under, if you decide to go in a different way.
Yeah.
We can try to answer whatever clarifications that you need tonight. But we have to, the council has to make a decision and give us direction. If the direction is SRC, that's fine, we will begin negotiations. If it's one of the other two firms, we'll meet tomorrow, or at least get on the phone and try to get a draft contract ready for you to pass by probably next Monday.
Very good. Other thoughts?
So Patrick, either way, it's going to take a special meeting, really. I mean.
Yes, well, yes, absolutely. Depending what you do, we will try to put a contract together, whoever the firm is. You have a workshop on Monday. We will put a special meeting on top of that, since you're going to be here anyways, to get that approval.
So I have some more thoughts. I understand we're under a time frame and need to move quickly. Completely understand that. But I have to echo Councilmember Bystrom about the recycling. I'm stuck there. One thing I said I'd do as a candidate was do my research, and on my last day of vacation, went on a field trip to SRC today to see how it was handled. And people do pick out the not ones and twos or whatever. One thing that struck me when our member from Republic was here was talking about the things that get put into recycle and made it seem like it was rare, was kind of how it came across to me. But Forest Lake needs some huge education on what to recycle. What I saw was, RFP aside, was just appalling what people throw in that recycle bin. And I'm sure I've done it. I'm sure my children have done it. And that's just something, we haven't even talked about the education and outreach to the community. And that's just, if we're going to recycle, we need to do it right and know where it goes. And I know you know that, and I know we're under a time frame, and I don't know how to get that, but I'm just stuck.
Absolutely, that we need a heavy education program, and each company responded in their responses what their education process is, what their program is. If they'd like to comment on that, that's up to them. But I would agree that, and I have been at SRC, and I as well saw the contamination, which we need an education program. We need strict guidelines. We need to inform the public what can and cannot be put in those cans, because it is a problem.
Mm-hmm. I was not helpful, sorry.
No, I echo those same concerns. To me, this is a threefold decision. One is clearly longevity in the community and knowledge of the community and the value that was expressed tonight of SRC in the community. There is a high amount of goodwill that this organization has in Forest Lake, and that needs to be set aside. I liked Geoff Klein's analysis of, it's kind of the veteran check mark. Yes, veteran. But secondly, then there's price as a consideration. It has to be a consideration, or we're just not doing our job. And those numbers speak for themselves. And I think we've been able to outline as much as possible an apples to apples comparison, recognizing there are some variations of flavor. But we have, a $1.8 million difference in this community over a 5-year period for residential services is a lot. That is a big difference, and so that is standing out. But then third, I land on this recycling question, and I feel like we have an incomplete program today. I feel like, yes, we're collecting some ones and twos, and not even all ones. And I feel like where the industry has doubled down on education and how do we get consumers to be better at this, I feel like our current provider hasn't provided the same education, or has tried to maybe even dissuade or discourage recycling. And I get that it is an expensive proposition for a small business, but we have a plastics problem, and that problem is not going away. We need to, I think, lean into those providers that are being creative and solving and have a scope for that recycling issue, because it is a challenge. And a PhD in the economics of the underlying secondary market for recycling, unfortunately, is what it takes. But I can't ask every resident to know that. And so I think we need a provider that is saying, we got this. And do have it, and I'm not seeing that in our current provider. I'm seeing instead a pullback from recycling, and we've spent years and years trying to educate our residents on how to recycle, and clearly, as Councilmember Munson mentioned, I've seen it as well. My own house has done it. We've still got more education that we need to do. And I throw on top of that just a little bit around, and I use kind of as a proxy the organics question. We're not requiring organics tonight, but we're interested in organics. And we have two providers that provided a robust answer to organics and what there is in their roadmap. And we don't have that in our current provider. And again, it just shows me a difference in kind of direction of the organization. And historically, this has been a trash decision, and trash decisions are made on what is the cost to get rid of trash. But I think we need to start changing that dynamic, and it's as much a what do we do with all of our stuff decision, and that's robust. So for me, there's a clear decision to be made tonight from a level of extent of services provided, extent meaning the number of services that are provided and what is taken from the home. And then coupled that with the price, I think we've got in my mind, it's a tough decision from an organization perspective, but services provided and what we are trying to achieve in a single collection effort, to me, that we've got a clear decision. Other thoughts?
I was just going to add that, and I was speaking just to the recycling part before, but when I look at the numbers, and I've received a lot of support for SRC, I've received mixed responses from folks, whether email or phone calls or just coming up and approaching and talking to me. As a council member and representative of the city for the residents, the fiscal responsibility is really important to me, and something that I too agree, think we need to take into consideration as we move forward.
Yeah, I think folks that know me know I'm pretty thoughtful and analytical and pretty data-driven. And so as I was trying to analyze this whole situation, I had spreadsheets and columns and page numbers and questions and, you know, all of those things that I felt were going to really help me get to a place, you know, and that try to kind of move past that emotion to a much more objective analysis. And my head keeps coming back to the necessity of me as an elected official to do my due diligence, particularly on cost, and give my community the best service for the best possible price. And that's where I land. This is not personal. We have a lot of incredible intangibles here that I know are very important to some. But for every email I've received in support, I've received one encouraging objectivity and to really review this as a scope of service relative to cost. And so I think, you know, that's my responsibility as an elected official.
Madam Mayor?
Absolutely.
I also feel that we have a fiscal responsibility to everyone in the city, and we've heard from a number of people, and I would say if you had favorable and unfavorable, and we've probably heard from 100 out of the 4,600, so there's always that silent majority. I can think SRC's done a great job, but I also would expect that either of the other two could also do a great job. When the day's over, people really want their garbage and recycling picked up at the curb, problem solved. And I don't think they're too concerned, to be honest, most people, who it is. So I think we really have to look at a lower cost provider if it provides better value. And over the length of the contract, we're talking, I think, about $300, $400 per family over the 5-year contract. And to me, that's a fair amount of money. I don't think any of us are going to go broke if we have to pay more, but I think I've heard from a number of people, stick with SRC as long as their price is in line. So that's my 2 cents.
Madam Mayor?
So,
This is our turn, thank you.
so folks,
Go ahead.
I can't ignore the positive comments I've gotten throughout this whole thing. And as far as recycling is concerned, I think that stuff is yet to be determined, and I think it can be fixed. I think what also the idea that we're throwing away a lot of freebies for this city, that's been going on for years and years with this company that we've had. And I think we're kind of forgetting about that. I think there are more positives than there are negatives, and the idea that we're going to give this contract, I believe what's happening here, to an international company, or not international, but at least a national company, where the money's going to leave the city of Forest Lake, and that to me is fiscal issue also. So I can't do tell you how to vote, but that's how I feel about the whole thing, and like I said, I just can't ignore the comments that I've had, and they've been 30-1. So, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Staffs?
I do, but I can't find my note.
Madam Mayor, one other thing that I wanted to bring up when folks would contact me about the RFP process, and because we're a single hauler community, one of the things, and it wasn't a dislike for SRC at all. I think one of the things that was really loud and clear was the ability to have some choices in terms of options. And with some of the other haulers, there are some choices for folks, since we don't have a choice of who the hauler is. And so that also was something that just, as Councilmember Bystrom said, this is a really difficult decision. This is a decision that was placed on a brand new council very quickly. Again, dealing with something that should have been dealt with probably a long time ago. And really, this is a matter of looking at this objectively and having to take the emotion out of it. I am a big supporter of local business. My family has a family business. But I also have to separate that from also being an elected official and having to be fiscally responsible.
Let the people vote on it.
Madam Mayor?
Go ahead.
So I agree with Councilman Husnick that some money may leave, but we are leaving, if we would go with Republic, we'd be leaving $375,000 a year in residents' pockets. And the statistic, when I do the math, if we go with the low bid, it's 33% higher to stick with SRC. And that, I think that we get out of my comfort zone of being fiscally responsible to the citizens of Forest Lake.
This is our conversation. Thank you. I agree with I too appreciate the dollars that stay in the local community, and support of local business is important. To your point, though, on the impact, to residents and the amount of impact to residents, I might be able to stomach that if it were an apples-to-apples service, but it's not an apples-to-apples service. We are getting a smaller recycling program for a 33%, premium, and that's the dynamic that I'm having a tough time reconciling. It's not just price, but it's the price for the service. Other comments, questions? If not, council or staff has provided at the back of our memo, which is this is the 2-page price summary, which is staff's recommendation. I think staff is looking for a motion from council tonight to instruct staff to negotiate a contract, and that contract would come back to council for approval in a special meeting next Monday. I will allow one more comment.
We are offering.
Please come to the podium so those watching online can hear.
Our program gives back to the residents $173,100 has already for a 58 months of our contract. We're going to double that return to the residents who are paying the bills, who are getting the coupons to spend to get rid of the recycling, to get rid of their bulky items. We're going to add $346,000 the next 5 years, and the next 5 years after that, with benefit to the residents. And right now, the plastic that's being thrown in the containers, number 1 through 7, is still going down to waste management. It's not that I'm picking it out and throwing it away. We're still collecting it. It's going in the container. It's not what we have on our labels. It's not at all what we have on our labels. But people are still throwing it away, and it is still being taken to waste management.
Thank you. I will bring conversation back to council. I will entertain a motion or any questions if there are any further questions. I will, not hearing any motions, I will kick off a motion for this evening. I would make a motion that council directs staff to negotiate a contract with Republic for trash and recycling services, to come back with a contract next Monday in a special meeting.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Motion and a second. Before we go into a roll call vote, I would just a couple of clarification of process items here. I recognize there's been a lot of information shared tonight, and I recognize that all of the information that City Attorney Bridget provided at the beginning of the meeting, there's going to be some follow-up questions related to pricing. I guess I would direct all of those questions back to the tape of tonight's meeting, because unfortunately, until we are back in a public meeting, we aren't able to discuss outside of the meeting all of the elements in that RFP. And so I just want to make that point clear again. We want to be as absolutely transparent as possible. You heard all of the detail tonight around the numbers that are driving our decision and the major service components. As soon as we are in a final contracted state, all of that information gets released unless it is privately, or unless it is trade secreted or trademarked. And so again, follow-up questions, I would go back to the tape. We have the media here tonight providing some transparency as well, just for any further clarification, because inevitably there will be some follow-up questions that come. And with that, Karen, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Councilmember Gerard?
Aye.
Councilmember Munson?
Aye.
Councilmember Byström?
Aye.
Councilmember Husnick?
No.
Mayor Bain?
Aye.
I'm to impeach. Get ready, you guys.
We have a motion that's passed. And let's give a moment here. Patrick, our next agenda item.
Yes, the
MA investment agreement. And
Right,
let's maybe
the-
let's just give a moment for those that are going to leave to leave.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Motion on the table for a 5-minute recess. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And we will, it's 8:45, we'll reconvene at 8:50 in 5 minutes. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? And the meeting is reopened. Our next agenda item, Patrick, PMA investment agreement, which is 7B on council agenda.
Yes, sent you a memo regarding, a couple weeks ago, we had this on the agenda, and there were some questions asked about rate of return and things like that. I try to provide a memo that would make this relatively understandable, because I know it was pretty difficult to understand. But I made a simple comparison that if we do what we do now, invest our monies like we do now, which is basically CDs, we go from institution to institution, and we invest our money in mostly CDs. Those are, covered by FDIC and collateral by the bank. And we've had experience that our current portfolio is returning about 1.64%. With PMA's model, they're an active investment. They've done a cash flow for us already. So they know how much they will take to invest while still leaving us enough cash to operate and meet our bills, meet payroll and things like that. And with their advisors, invest this money as smartly as they possibly can. Where this becomes critical is when we borrow a large amount of money from public works projects. Let's just say we're building a new water plant, and we're going to borrow $5 million. Well, it's obvious they will take into consideration what that project's timeline is and invest some of that money. So instead of having that money just sit at a bank, so that $5 million is just sitting at a bank, they will leave whatever they believe the amount of money they need to cover the first few bills and invest the rest of it to get a better return. So it's really a smarter way to invest our money, and it's still a safe way to invest our money. PMA does nothing but public sector employees, cities or villages or towns. They are in Wisconsin, they are in Illinois. They've had very good results. We still remain in control of what we do with our funds, how they're invested. They can't just start willy-nilly investing them in things that we don't think are smart. They have to tell us what they're investing in, what the portfolio is going to look like, and we always have control over that money and where it's going to go. So, and with Sandy now on board, myself, we will review that and meet with them on a regular basis to decide what kind of investment portfolio they're going to suggest to us, and try to get a better return for the city's money that's sitting in the bank.
Thank you. Questions from council for Patrick related to the PMA investment agreement. I will just refer individuals back. This is the second time council has evaluated this agreement, so it's a follow-up item for us. So if conversation seems not quite as robust, I would refer back to those previous questions. The memo that is in front of council kind of opens a couple of those remaining items. That said, a couple of points, questions that were asked of me by the public, and thank you to those who are kind of watching over these things and asking great questions. And we talked about a couple of these things the first time, and I just want to confirm. This is not a change of investment risk. We're not changing our investment policy. We're not accepting more risk. We are keeping the same secure investment policy that we have today. We are just taking a different management approach to that portfolio.
Correct. I personally would never go to risky investments. I think that's short-sighted and foolish. This is a managed portfolio compared to for lack of a better word, a stagnant portfolio. So when you invest in CDs, that's it. They stay for periods of 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. This is an active portfolio that's taking our money, investing it wisely, comparing it to our cash flow, and making sure when we need the money to pay contractors, whatever, it's there, but also increasing our return. So in the memo, I tried to compare what our current investment is compared to what, a scenario that we would have. And our current investment, under the model here, we returned $348,000. If this works out the way we think it is and the investment model that we use, we can get that up to $590,000. And it's just a more managed, somebody's paying attention to it, actively managed. And Sandy's used this before in places she's had, so if you want to comment on that, she can. But I think it's a good model and a safe model for us to use.
I understand that our auditors take a look at our investment policy each year and take a look at just making sure that that is in line with, good benchmark and good governance for a city of our size. Any need to reevaluate that investment portfolio? I have a perspective that, or that investment policy, I have a perspective that if you have a sleepier portfolio, you may, it may not need to be as buttoned down. Are there any areas where you would want us to reevaluate?
We will look at that once this is done and try to model that back to what we're looking at. We will also continually review their investments, their return, and decide if we should still be in it on a regular basis. Because at some point, maybe they're not doing what we want to do.
That was one of my other questions. Term of the agreement, it looks like it is open-ended.
Yes.
That it is up, and so we are able to cancel at any point. We're not locked into this management agreement
Yeah, I'm
for
just
a
looking
period
for
of
the
time.
language, but I believe that's correct.
And then it's in the materials, but just to answer the question for those that, I had a couple of questions asking about custody. We are still maintaining custody of the actual securities. This is and that custodial agreement does not change as a nature of this.
No, we retain custody of all those funds. They cannot transfer that or put that in a institution or investment without our permission. So we do retain all custody and decisions.
Okay.
Basically veto power, for lack of a better way to put it. So.
Right.
So what would we be looking at fee-wise here?
I don't recall what their, see if we have their fees here. I think we had that last time when they were here. Let me just see if I can find that real quickly.
It's minimum 15,000?
Yeah, I just have to.
Minimum 15,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 96.
Correct.
And then the returns that are presented in the memo, which is kind of the argument of why to go into this managed, that is net of the fee increase.
Yes.
Okay.
Because, well, yes. I mean, and then, again, that's a scenario, like they used to say in the commercials, returns is based on your risk and all that, but we're not being very risky, so.
Correct. Any further questions of council or questions from council of staff? Staff is looking for a approval this evening.
Madam Mayor,
Go
I
ahead.
think you answered it, but I was lost trying to find my page. Were these percentages calculated including their fees or net their fees?
In the memo?
Yeah.
They were net after the fees.
Thank you.
But important to know that they are projected, they're hypothetical.
Right.
Given current portfolio and market.
So you're looking for a motion to hire these folks? Is that what you're looking for?
Motion to approve the contract that's included in the packet.
And make a motion to approve the contract for the PMA investment agreement?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you for the additional clarity on that. That was helpful. Final item on our agenda, our regular agenda, 7C, Ace Hardware invoices. Council, I will entertain a motion. Karen, if you sense a lot of scrolling tonight, our bookmarks are not working this evening, so.
Yeah, that's what's
Everyone's
taking me
scrolling
so
up.
long.
Very last item of our packet. Page 98 is the Ace Hardware invoices, and I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the Ace Hardware invoices.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
We will abstain.
One abstention. Motion carries. Going to go into our other portion of the agenda. I was approached at the break by a resident who is here to speak on a topic as part of open forum, but arrived after open forum had started. So I'd like to give him that opportunity now as part of this other portion to approach council. So welcome. Just please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I am Davin Johnson, 7104 208th Place North, in the Chestnut Creek development right across from Forest Hills Golf Course there. Thank you for hearing me out. This is the first time that I've been in a city council meeting since I was actually probably 10 years old, so well-versed, but it's a big gap, so I'm trying to pick it all back up and learn again. I just wanted to raise a concern that our neighborhood has had. This last weekend, we actually had someone take out a mailbox in our neighborhood. And I don't mean the small mailbox that's at the end of your driveway. I mean one of the big banks. And this has not been an isolated incident. Fortunately, the Forest Lake Police Department was able to help us out and they found the culprit. So we don't have to pay for it as residents of the neighborhood. But the neighborhood is very concerned that this, is, like I said, it's not an isolated incident. So I think we're just looking for guidance or assistance on ways that we can mitigate the problem.
Very good. We can, police chief is in the audience, and we can, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll move on to staff updates. Chief Peterson, we'll start with you.
Good evening. The only item I have for you is just echoing Mike Keene, who's here representing the American Legion, that the July 4th festivities went really well. Of course, we had more calls for service during that 5-day period, but that's just natural. Happens all the time when you bring in an extra 10, 20,000 people during the festivities throughout those 5 days. So officers responded to during that 5-day stretch, 365 calls for service. And to just put that in perspective, that's about 73 calls for service a day. And we usually respond to about 35 to 40. So nothing too alarming by any means. Like I said, it's usual. But the good thing is there wasn't any major incidents. Safety and security went perfectly as planned with the help of Public Works, the fire department, and the Parks department. And so I think that's all I really have for you. Just a great event. I was able to hit a couple of areas during it, the parade and fireworks and such, and hopefully everyone in the city and all the guests that came in enjoyed it as well. If you have any questions for me, I'm here for you right now. Otherwise, I'm going to go speak with our local resident here and see if we can come to some conclusions on the and some options in regards to the property damage that's happening over there.
Any questions for Chief Peterson?
Just a comment. Thanks to you and your team, and actually the rest of the city services that kind of step up and provide that service during that point in time. I know those are some really long hours, and we do appreciate it.
Sure. I will pass that along. Thank you.
Echo those same comments. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chief Newman.
During the 4th, we had no major calls or 4th of July related calls or injuries, which was great news. On Saturday, we did have a deck fire that started the exterior of the structure on fire. I'd like to thank Forest Lake PD Tom Coulter, who was the first arriving officer, grabbed a fire extinguisher and actually knocked down the fire on the exterior of the house, which kept it manageable until fire services arrived and we were able to quickly extinguish the fire. So that's all I have, unless you have something for me.
Any questions for Chief Newman? I just echo the same thank you. Thank you to your team. I know it's an all hands on deck kind of weekend, so thank you.
Thanks.
Dan.
Just update the council. The EDA meeting tonight was canceled due to a lack of quorum. So the agenda for tonight will be moved to the next meeting in July. On the EDA side, there's been some press recently about the technology corridor. The Star Tribune ran an article about a week and a half ago on the tech corridor. And there's also one from ECM Publishing ran one from Anoka County, so they referenced it. So we are getting that kind of on that regional scale. The technology corridor is starting to get out in the marketplace right now. And I know that Anoka County was working with the 3M Open this past weekend to try to get the site in front of some site selectors as part of the 3M Open. So it's starting to kind of get some legs out in the marketplace at this point. On the website, we hit the 4th of July page that we built, hit about 20,000 page views in the last week. So that's by far the most that we've had. It's the most viewed page that we get all year. Interesting thing about that is that this year we actually have a significant increase in the amount of mobile subscribers to that. So typically we run 50-50. This year it's 70% was on mobile. So the assumption is people are, as they're going out and enjoying the events on the 4th of July, they are seeing that on the mobile side. So it's just kind of reiterating the fact that we need to make sure our websites maintain availability on mobile devices. And then a final update I have, I just want to make everybody aware that the airport commission meeting for this Wednesday is moved to 5 p.m. just so that the commission members can attend the community input session, part of strategic planning if they desire. Also, as part of that meeting, I'm working on kind of just a preliminary budget for the airport, and also as part of that, taking a 10-year look at the 10-year cash projections for the airport fund, so we can look at it for 20, but also for the next 10 years and see what that fund looks like over the, what we have for anticipated revenues over 10 years. So just want everybody to know, airport commission meeting this Wednesday at 5 p.m. and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Dan?
Thanks, Dan, for pointing that out.
Sandy?
Nothing further to add. I just keep on digging in and continuing on.
Get ready for budget season. Around the corner.
Yep, it's coming.
Karen?
No updates. I'll be sending information to you about the property tax training information, assessments. So that's posted now, so you'll be getting an email. I kind of wanted to wait until 4th of July was done and everything else, so that's coming at you next.
Very good. Thank you. Patrick?
Yeah, Dan mentioned briefly, our first community input session for the strategic planning process is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Hopefully we'll have a good turnout. We believe there will be at least 30 to 40 people in the first one. So that's, and the only other thing I have is to thank all of those involved with the 4th of July as well. My 3 out-of-town 7-year-olds enjoyed the parade and some of the festivities greatly, so thanks.
Very good. Bridget?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I did attend the League of Minnesota Cities annual conference legislative update for city attorneys. That was about a week and a half ago. There were some legislative changes this last session that will impact cities, so I'll be working with staff to make sure it's on everyone's radar moving forward on those issues.
Very good. Dave?
Broken record about the 4th of July. I just want to thank my staff and getting everything put together, and then when they woke up to make it look like nobody made a mess. So
yes.
We tried to do that. Weed harvester went in the water this week with collaboration from Forest Lake Association. They actually did a lot of the back work and getting the permitting done through the DNR, so they'll start cutting weeds tomorrow on that. I think that is it.
Echo comments. Thank you to your team on the 4th of July. I get a ton of questions about the weed harvester. Quickly, areas where it operates. I hear feedback. It's only in the channels. It's DNR designated. Can you just provide some clarification?
Yeah. So with the AAS or the zebra mussels and all the different kind of weeds in there, there's certain areas we cannot go into anymore, and the DNR has to basically review and approve certain areas. So in the past, the weed harvester was kind of thought of, come up by my dock and clear my weeds out, and
yes.
that's not the service the weed harvesting is really used for now. Maybe I can work with Dan, and we do have a PDF map that we could put on the website just to show the areas that we do cut.
That would be great.
So yeah, that's the one kind of misnomer, is that I think that we're out cutting around people's dock, but we're really not. We're just trying to eliminate certain kinds of weeds and stuff. So.
Is that still volunteer driven?
Nope. So city staff now operates it, and then the Lake Association basically pays us for a seasonal worker to reimburse. We put a full-time employee in it, but they pay us for a seasonal worker, so that seasonal is doing work with the full-timers on together, so they get, between now and Labor Day, we're out there every day, so.
And is that footprint of weed area, is that evaluated with the DNR annually? Is that?
Yeah, every year it
Every year,
gets
okay.
evaluated. I think last year we had 54 acres we could cut, and now we're at like 56.3 or something like that. So it varies, and then some areas may get bigger, some areas may switch. Like Lake 1 used to get a ton of stuff cut, but with AS in there now, there's barely any areas getting cut in Lake 1, and Lake 2 is really the main area now, so.
Okay.
But I'll definitely work with Dan, and we can get some kind of a link on there so they can look at that PDF.
That would be great.
I think that'd be great too, because I've, kind of fielded a few questions in that regard as well, and it would be nice to be able to just direct them to the website.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah. Councilmember Gerard?
Thank you. Again, the 4th was absolutely spectacular, and coming through town, no matter when I came through, it was neat, it was clean, everyone was happy. It was just great to see the community all out and about. I had no meetings. It's my quiet time. They start up this week. And lastly, I've gotten some input. I've invited a few people to the strategic planning, and they can't make a Wednesday night. So in future endeavors like this, if we could do a Wednesday and a Thursday, or a Tuesday and a Thursday, so that their night, they would be able to make it, then they had consistent stuff on Wednesday nights. Besides that, I have nothing else.
Councilmember Munson?
No updates on meetings. Again, for me, too quiet. I would just echo everybody's comments about the 4th. It was fantastic. I told Mike that it was the best fireworks display ever. It was just amazing. And thank you for the Legion very much for putting that on and providing that to us and all the city staff that I'm sure puts a lot of hours in for this week that's pretty special in Forest Lake.
Councilmember Byström?
I want to echo comments about the Legion and the thanks for the great job you do on a fairly shoestring budget, we know. Still not doing well in that bingo tent, though, Mike. Hopefully you can help me out with that. So, really, it was, the feedback has just been absolutely phenomenal. So kudos to you all. Attended the Joint Powers Fire Board, attended the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission meeting, and just a reminder that the Belts Park Open House is July 18th. Dan, is that right? Karen, okay, July 18th at 5:30, correct? Forgot to double check before I came. So July 18th at 5:30, Belts Park Open House. And the Senior Center Volunteer Luncheon is coming up in August, and I'll just be sure to remind you all of that late July or sometime in early August. So that's all I have.
Councilmember Husnick?
Thank you. I also attended the Joint Powers Fire Board meeting, and that was just happened to be the same night that the school board meeting was, and I can only make one of them, and I was a voting member there at the Joint Powers Board, so I didn't make the school board meeting, but great. And again, as far as the Legion is concerned, I'm a member there, and it isn't just the dollars they spend there, it's the volunteers, hundreds of hours collectively, volunteers, and I don't know how they do it, because it seems like it's the same people year after year after year, so extend our thank you to those folks and for being there and doing all that. So that's all I have.
I will echo all of the comments on the 4th of July and all of the volunteers at the Legion. It was a great event this year, and I heard comments specifically around best parade we've had a long time and best fireworks display perhaps ever, so fantastic job on that, and thank you for what you do for Forest Lake. I also attended the Joint Fire Board meeting. I believe some of the outcomes of that meeting will be coming before council at a future discussion. Kudos to Dan on the Tech Corridor website again. It's been nice to see some of the press that has received. I think that's a great foundation for next steps related to our involvement in the Tech Corridor. Reminder, we heard it during open forum comments around the new park equipment that is now open at Lakeside Memorial Park. There will be an official ribbon cutting as part of an upcoming Arts in the Park. It's the Friends and Family Night, and I think it's the last Tuesday in July. It will be the official ribbon cutting for that, but that equipment is all open. Reminders of the community input sessions, and I thank you. I also heard the feedback on the Wednesday nights. We had talked if we have high involvement, perhaps adding a third meeting.
Yeah, we did talk about that, but I wanted to follow up with that. There will also be an online survey or input form that if they'd like to participate, that will be up probably tomorrow or by Wednesday. Is it on already? Okay, so it's on there, so they can just do that, fill it out, and it's linked to the consultant's website, and it'll automatically go. So if they're interested in doing that, please direct them to the website where they can participate.
And how long will that be open for, do you think?
Well, through at least next Wednesday and probably in the end of next week, depending on the rest of the schedule. We'll probably leave it open as often as we can before the city council session.
Thank you.
Very good. And then also, just finally, I'd like to recognize Amy Peterson and thank her for all of the great work on the recycling information. Amy's spending the summer with us as a recycling intern and probably learning more about trash and recycling than she cares to know, but thank you for all of the good work, and that will be important on the next steps as well. That being said,
One final point of clarification. Are we supposed to attend Wednesday night for a welcome? Is that the?
It was envisioned that either the mayor or one of you, plus myself, would introduce the concept and then take off and let them finish.
So we do not all need.
So you don't all
be
need to be
present.
there, no.
we do not all need to be there. I will be there to do that welcome on Wednesday night. You are welcome to, be there and invite guests, but I think the, again, expectation is that we are not there for the input session. We are hearing the results. But thank you for clarifying. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And we're adjourned.